if you were the judge and they came to you and said, we have to go for, and do a raid on the attorney, would you okay it?
I mean, I'd have to see the underlying evidence, and that's really the question here, right? We haven't actually seen the application for the warrant that went in front of the magistrate judge. Once we see that application, a lot is going to become a lot clearer because we've been enmeshed in this entire news cycle about whether the FISA warrant on Carter Page was improperly obtained, for example. You have to imagine the magistrate judge sees this application come across his desk and he goes, holy crap, I'm going to be signing off on an application to search communications between the president and his personal attorney about payoffs to various and sundry women. This had better be solid gold, right? I mean, I better require the evidentiary standard for this warrant to be higher than any evidentiary standard for any warrant I have ever issued, or I'm really not doing my job here. So that leads me to believe that if the magistrate judge is anything remotely like a reasonable person, they have something pretty strong that they suspect they have on Cohen particularly. But what this really raises, I think, Glenn, is a second question, which is, let's say that everything ends up being true. Let's say that all the left's dreams comes true here. How many folks on the right are just going to say, listen, it's a campaign finance reform violation. We don't like campaign finance stuff anyway, so who cares, right? We all knew that Trump was not great with the ladies when it comes to treatment of women. No one was shocked by the fact that he was sleeping with a porn star. No one's shocked that he would attempt to pay off a porn star. So are we really willing to go all the way down the path of criminal prosecution or impeachment of Donald Trump when Hillary Clinton got away with it? And then you'll see other people on the right say, well, just because Democrats get away with it doesn't mean that we should green light it in our own party. And you almost have a revised battle of 2016 on the conservative side of the aisle, where people say, well, we better to have a double standard and keep the president than to stand by our principles and not. And this could get really rough really quickly inside the conservative movement, let alone for the country at large.
So let me ask you, Ben, have you thought this one through yet? Where do you stand? If it comes down to that, where do you stand?
Yeah. I mean, if it comes down to the president actually committed criminal acts, I have a pretty strict standard on the president committing criminal acts. And, I'd have to stand against the president in the commission of criminal acts. The question that would then arise is whether that actually amounts to a high crime and misdemeanor subject to impeachment, which is actually a secondary question, right? You can say that Trump did something criminal and still say this doesn't rise to the level of an impeachable offense, because it's not just any crime or misdemeanor, it's a high crime or misdemeanor. Is a payoff to a woman in a case very similar to John Edwards, is that really going to be something, a campaign finance violation? Is that really where we're going to hang our hat to impeach a president of the United States?
If you were advising the president today, what would you be telling him?
The same thing I'd be telling him every day, Pinky, shut up, right? Just to be quiet. The best thing that Trump can do at this point is just keep his mouth shut, because every time he says anything about Mueller, then the Democrats start thinking obstruction of justice. And anything he says about this U.S. attorney, people are going to start thinking U.S. Obstruction of justice. And then you get back into the Russia collusion obstruction of justice matrix that the left has been trying to bring about here for well over a year. The best thing that Trump can do here is just focus on the business at hand. We may be about to go to war in Syria. We need the president with his game face on. And he really doesn't have any control over any of this stuff. He certainly should not be testifying in front of Mueller. He shouldn't be testifying in front of anyone so long as he can help it. And I hope that finally his lawyers have knocked that through his head, that this whole idea that you had that you were going to go talk with Mueller and everything was going to be better because of it. You stay as far away from the federal prosecutor as humanly possible if you are Donald Trump, and you say as little as possible in general. You can say, here I think should be a good rule of thumb for the president. If you're watching CNN and they have happy faces on, it's time for you to be quiet. If you're watching CNN and they have sad faces on, then keep talking.
I think that's probably good advice. I was thinking about the Joint Chiefs today as they were preparing last night for the response for Syria. What the conversation had to be when they saw that his personal attorney was being arrested, and they knew that in the next 24 hours they had to go and lay out a plan for him. Is the president? Do you have the faith that there's enough people around him and that he has the stability? Because he's pissed beyond belief that he can separate and compartmentalize what is happening.
I think so. I don't think that Trump is going to start a war in Syria just because he's mad at Michael Cohen or at Jeff Sessions or something. I think that, he does have a lot of respect for a couple of the people around him, particularly generals. So he has a lot of respect for Mattis at Department of Defense. And he has a lot of respect, obviously, for John Kelly as chief of staff. And my guess is that whatever recommendation they bring to him, he will say yes to. And so it really is more up to his advisors. What they want to bring to him is sort of the final answer here than having him make a considered decision. Frankly, I think that happens a lot with the president.